Hi, I'm Alex. Today we're going to be talking about what to do when you don't feel like writing. We've all been there. We all have our moments, days, months where we just don't want to write. Whether it's we're unsure of what to do with the story where we're at because we've either written ourselves into a wall or we're not sure where the plot should go, or you're feeling like you're out of ideas, or anything of that sort. Maybe we feel demotivated in our story, or we're just bored with it. It happens, and that's okay. But there are things you can do to help yourself get back into the writing. The first thing I would suggest, and this is one that's actually helped me not so much get back into my story of itself, but get back into writing, especially if I've gone a long time without writing, and that's doing writing prompts. There are a lot of fun ones out there. I think there might even be entire forums dedicated to writing prompts, but pick one that sounds interesting to you and just write. Don't try and make it a story. Don't try and make it anything. Just write. Even if all that is, I like this prompt, but I'm more interested in exploring the location of it than actually following the prompt, then do that. The whole point is to just start writing again. The next thing you can do, and I think it pops up a lot in the journaling community too, is free write. Open a document, open a blank page in a notebook, and just write. Even if that's, this day sucks and this is what could make it better. Or, hey, I feel like writing about this show I watched last night. It doesn't have to be about your story. It'd be great if it was, because if you just start writing even random stuff about your story, more than likely there's going to be one or two things in there that you can pull to put into your story, and it might be enough to get you to start writing again. But really what this is all about is getting writing. My next suggestion would be to work on another project, which sounds like it's kind of the opposite of what you'd want to do. But I have had points where I'd be working on a series of short stories or an idea for a story, and I just couldn't get myself into working on it anymore. So to keep myself writing, I went and flipped to another idea. And while I will be the first to highly suggest finishing a story, if you're having problems just writing in the first place, the best fix is to write however that is possible for you. As a writer, the worst thing you can do is to stop writing unless, now there are exceptions to that, and I'm not saying you shouldn't take breaks. Everyone needs a break from what they do at some point. Not saying that. But the reason you stop writing should be because you need that break and not because you're frustrated or angry with your story or bored. If you're bored, maybe it's time you work on something else. Now, I'll be the first to also say that the editing process is boring. It's not fun. It needs to be done. But if you're working on your first draft or you're just working on the plotting, well, maybe that story is something you can come back to when you have a little more something to put to it. You may just not have enough ideas for it at the moment. On the other hand, if you're on a story that is almost done and you're just kind of like, push through it. Really, it'll be worth it to push through it, because even if that end is terrible, you can fix it later in edits. It's fine. Next thing you can do, if you're kind of lost in your story, And what I mean is you either wrote yourself into a corner, or you're not sure what to do with it, or you're not sure where you were going with whatever you've written. I've had that happen where I stopped writing for a couple days because it was a holiday or something. I came back to it and I'm like, where was I going with this? If you have notes that you've written about your story, character notes, plot notes, anything like that, go back and look over them. You may find yourself remembering, oh, right, I wanted to do this. Even if it wasn't in those notes, it might be enough to trigger the memory and go, oh, right. Now, that being said, if you're someone who has a problem remembering their things like that, write them down. It will save you so much heartache later trying to remember this stuff if you just write all of it down. Just open a document, open a notebook, keep everything. Everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Keep it. Hoard those ideas. They'll be important later. My final bit of advice is to do something else. And I know it kind of contradicts what I said earlier, but sometimes your mind really just does need a break. Sometimes you've worked yourself so hard that your brain is just tired and you need a break from it. Caveat. Most of what I suggest doing when you're doing something else is still doing something creative. The only non-creative thing I suggest, going for a walk, exercise, do something. I find personally that if I'm stuck and I can't think of something for my story, if I go for a walk, because I am nowhere near my computer, something to write with, which is terrible and I don't suggest doing as I do, I'll end up thinking of really good ideas because I don't have anything to write them down. I have to rely on this to try and remember it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. As far as doing something creative, read, paint, draw, crochet, cook, anything else that is you creating. Because it keeps you in that creative mindset while still giving your brain a break. And if you're doing something that involves your hands, you're kind of distracting your brain a bit because part of your brain has to go toward concentrating on doing something here, so it can let everything flow up here. I like to read. I feel my writing suffers if I don't read. If I feel I need to do something with my hands, I crochet, I draw, I do a lot of the artsy things. And because it's a different sort of art, it does help me kind of step back. Let me know if you have any advice for when you don't want to write, but maybe you know you have to, or you don't want to let the habit stop. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!